I am still playing Syberia 3. Yes, I know this game is now about 7 years old, but I keep going back. I would like to finish it one day. It didn't get good reviews for a whole variety of reasons, many of them to do with performance and technical issues. It can be pretty turgid to play at times, sometimes bordering on the painful, but I drag myself through those bits because it's Syberia and it's a Kate Walker story, and I do like them. So I'll now show you a little bit of the part I've been playing in December. So I'm near the Youkol village here, and the task is to use the dam to filter the water. So that's one of the puzzles in this particular chapter. I found it really awkward, mainly because of the controls and then also working out exactly which bits of the dam to shut off and which ones to leave open. It sort of wasn't really intuitive, I would say. So I won't show you the whole painful procedure, and just assure you that I did, after lots of trial and error, manage to flip the switches just the right way. And we can trot back to see the Youkol shaman. Some of the environments are quite nicely done, I think, but it's obviously an older graphics engine. The whole thing is more reminiscent of PS3 era games, and you certainly notice that in particular with some of the character models.
Be careful all the same, Mr. Barut. The dam filtering the water may not hold very long.
There is a lot of voice-acted dialogue as usual in Syberia, and it certainly does help with the immersion. I'm not completely sure about how the indigenous population, the Youkol, are portrayed. While they are a fictional construct, they're clearly closely modelled on southern Syberia in particular. You know about my background and interest in anthropology, so scenes like this can be difficult to judge because they are fictional. But what I sense in the game are overall very genuine intentions. I fear, however, that sometimes...
Ha! Miss Kate Walker. You have good news?
The Youkol characters come across unintentionally as a bit klutzy and comedic, so you might wince occasionally.
Miss Kate Walker go great journey with Youkols.
I'd like to point out here that interaction ring, which you can put up against people or objects and accordingly choose a specific action. By the way, I love how the shaman is reaching for her secret snifter here. I think it looks a bit clunky, and while it works okay, it doesn't feel like the most efficient way of doing it. The whole game has a somewhat dated and awkward design aesthetic about it. So here we have a small side puzzle. It's easy, unlike some of the other ones. You just have to shuffle items around in the box until you find a particular object. It feels a bit ham-fisted, but it works. Our next task is to stamp the pass with the wholesome seal. Basically, we need to be able to get out of there. We need permission to cross over into wholesome. Well, bureaucracy strikes.
Miss! As the inopportune loitering of the Youkol nomads in town was proving to be disturbing the tranquility of the inhabitants, Mayor Bulakin has ordered access to wholesome to henceforth be restricted to those presenting a duly stamped pass, which confers the authorization to access said town.
So Kate obviously needs to sneak into the gendarme's office. And there she finds a stamping machine to do the deed.
A stamp? Looks like something's missing, though.
So you obviously need to work out what each particular small lever or device on the machine does, and then in what order to add which items. This is one of the puzzles that I would say the word painful is the right one for. It's not a bad puzzle, it's well thought out, but the mechanics of how to do it are clunky and not terribly well indicated. That's my excuse anyway. The highlight was tramping off to find some squid ink. You need ink for stamping. No squids were harmed. Sponge soaked in squid ink. I really blame the ancient Russian bureaucracy still working with stamping machinery like this. But I can't complain about the scenery. It was a nice view. Back to the border hut.
I have to find a way to attach the stamp or it'll fall out again.
This indeed proved to be the trickiest part of the whole operation, and it still sends shivers down my spine just thinking about it. I must have got so exercised over putting together this pass that I forgot to push the record button when I actually finally did manage to get it all together. So I'm very sorry, but I can't show you the completed pass and Kate successfully walking out of there and into Valsambor. I hope this has given you a little bit of the flavour of the game, though. So let's move on to the fourth Syberia game, the most recent one. If you don't know the overarching story of the Syberia games and would like to experience it for yourself, then please be aware that there will be a few, however heavily edited, spoilers in the summary of events that Syberia 4, called The World Before, presents to bring players up to speed. Players who may not have played the previous games. Can you play this fourth game without having played the previous ones? Absolutely yes, but I think it still pays to experience some of the older games as well. It just gives you a deeper background. So why did I want to jump into the fourth game? Well, it was on discount on the PlayStation Store, haha. But the main reason was, as you saw from my Syberia 3 coverage, that I can only play that game in small sessions because otherwise it just gets too turgid. And I am aware of the ending of Syberia 3, which basically leaves Kate Walker's fate hanging in the balance, completely unresolved. So I wanted to see what advances the fourth game made. And also, of course, how Kate Walker's fate develops. Well, the fourth game is an interesting departure because it is divided into two timelines, and that's why it's called The World Before, because in one of the timelines you go back to the 1930s to a fictional place in Central Europe, with all the obvious historical problems you'll be aware of from the 1930s. And the modern timeline is what happens to Kate Walker after the end of Syberia 3. So let's have a look at both timelines. I recorded basically the beginning of the game, so you won't be getting any significant plot spoilers from further in at all. I want to say straight away that I'm hugely impressed with how they have upgraded, obviously, their graphics engine. The game looks miles better than Syberia 3. The design, the controls, everything works better, and the puzzles are suddenly not painful anymore. They're relatively straightforward, well integrated into the flow of the story, which is what I like with my narrative adventure games. I don't like to be held up for hours on end with an intractable puzzle problem. You remember my complaints in Syberia 3 about the action ring? Well, I'm happy to say it works a lot smoother here while being less obtrusive visually. These are your side quests, and most of them are very well worth doing because they really provide a much deeper perspective on the characters, the times, and the background to what's happening.
A rock?
Oh no, vandals.
Are you alright?
None for the worse for wear. What worries me is it's getting worse every day.
I'm sorry to hear it.
Oh, never mind. We must all make do with our lot in life, huh?
Alright, I will.
Here you go. Ah, perfect. A bass clef.
Guten Tag, Frau Beckmann.
So performing at the open-air concert is our first puzzle. I was beginning to have reminiscences of the water regulation puzzle in Syberia 3, and I feared this might be perhaps equally awkward, but as it turned out, it all was surprisingly easy and worked smoothly and immediately. It was done in no time at all, and I was able to enjoy the concert, truly out of this world. The clock is ticking inexorably. Now we are in the other timeline in Syberia with Kate Walker in the heavily guarded prison. She has to break out of there or she will surely perish there. And that's of course your first job.
God, another day of hard labor. What are you going to do now, Kate?
You've got a journal with all the letters and background info you need to understand what's been happening. Kate made a friend in prison, her cellmate, Katyusha, and she will play an important part, of course, in the breakout. So I'll skip over a few things here. It takes a while for them to get ready for breaking out.
I enclosed your mother's pendant. According to her, you used to love the mystery of its melody.
And we're back in Vaghen in 1937. So you see how the two stories intertwine all the time. And the connections slowly become apparent as you play. Distressing things begin to happen in Vaghen.
Horrible.
But we move forward in time again to Syberia. I want to show you now, heavily condensed, the exciting escape from the salt mines. They make an astounding discovery. A motorbike. Skeletons, long dead remains. This looks like your typical Nazi officer skeleton. We can't investigate it at the moment, but we'll be back later. Kate, what are you doing? There's a dead body inside. Leave it alone, or you'll bring us bad luck. Oof, more remains. Looks like they were shot dead while they were eating. What on earth happened here? Looks like it was caught in a rock slide decades ago. Crazy to think that no one's found it until today. And you had to find it, Kate Walker. That is some ravine, and it means the tunnel on the other side is cut off. Must be the way out. I can see the light at the end. There's our escape. But how do we get across that? We've got one motorbike, but it needs fixing up. So Kate is back to inspect the skeleton, who handily left a suicide note explaining a lot, which I'm not going to tell you, but we want to solve this puzzle. Yeah. Oops. Ah, well, better find out what kind of strange symbols and shifty secret drawers he left behind. You know the drill. We press and secret compartments are revealed. Nothing interesting. Well, that's life, and video games are, of course, just like real life. Third time lucky, a brown shadow emblem. Yep, that's got to be important because these guys are called the Brown Shadows. They're not officially called Nazis in the game. They're the Brown Shadows. Time to focus on that circular doodah, and sure enough, Brown Shadow emblem fits perfectly. We wiggle it about a bit, and bingo. And the prize object is a set of officer's keys. Wouldn't you know it? Therefore the motorbike. Yippity-doo-dah! I can smell the escape route. While Katyusha works on the bike, Kate takes the other key. There is a tantalizing lock there on one of the wagons that I know it'll just fit. Gosh, that is one rusty, stiff old lock. About 60 years old. Wow, I'm not fit enough for this game. I need more muscle, a bit of elbow grease. Was it worth it? Go and have a look with Kate. I think you'll be amazed.
Hey, your chariot's waiting. Hey, what are you... Holy crap.
Wow, this is worth a fortune. I can't believe it. Yep, it's your good old Nazi treasure trove trope. It's an oldie but goodie. But just when you think life is handing you roses, now follows a significant scene that I am not showing you. Okay, let's enjoy Kate's spectacular ride into freedom. I am really pleased that this Syberia game got good reviews and scores. It really does help. The beautiful Siberian taiga landscape here reminds me a bit of the scenery in Syberia 3. I think you'll agree that it does look a degree or two better here. And we take our leave here from Kate Walker as she begins on her trans-European travels to reach which city? I think you've got an idea and can work it out for yourself. Yes, the threads are being drawn ever closer and coming together. So 1 year later we catch up with Kate in Vaghen, and this is where the real detective work begins. Shall we leave her to it? Or do you think you might like to join Kate Walker in her adventures? Let me know. As always, thank you for taking the time to join me. I'm Food for Dogs. Bye-bye.